Not many of you know about my embarrassing past, but before I started my life at UCLA, I went through some tough times in high school. The hardship I went through in high school is not the typical problems like normal high school students go through, but but it was life-changing for me. I wasn't the best student in high school, but I studied really hard during my first 2 years and got decent grades. But when I entered my junior year and began taking AP and honor classes, everything started to fall apart. I know that almost every other Asian parents they put a lot of pressure on their kids to study hard and get good grades. But I think my dad was very extreme in terms of my academic success. When I lived in Korea, my dad achieved his lifelong dream. He became the captain of Asiana Airlines. He loved his job, but when I turned 4th grade, my parents decided to move to America for the sake of me and my brother's education. My dad lived in Korea alone for a year or so, but he eventually gave up his status as a captain, and he came to join the family. He literally gave up his dream for the family. Knowing this, I did not want to let him down, and with the schoolwork getting harder and me not wanting to fail my dad, I resorted to cheating in my junior year all the way until my graduation. All it took was one of my close friends to convince me to cheat in AP Calculus. I never cheated before this day, but afterwards I got hooked on the idea of getting good grades without putting much effort into studying. And instead of studying for class materials, I would go home and devise a master plan to get an A. At first, my heart would pound like crazy, but after a while, I got so used to it that I began to get a thrill every time I was successful. I believed in God, but my heart gradually hardened, and I was drifting away from Him. I knew I needed to change my habits, but it was already too late to go back. I felt stuck. I had a choice to give up my good grades and get whatever grades I really deserved, but I could not stop myself from cheating. It was like an addiction that I could not quit. I would pray to God and make deals. I would pray that I would never cheat after a certain exam, but I failed to keep my promise every time. I was bound to get caught someday, and that day happened to be on the day I was taking my SAT exam. I remember walking out of the school alone while everyone else was taking the test. I called my dad to pick me up before the test ended, and I remember telling him during the car ride what happened. And I saw him cry for the first time that day. I knew I had disappointed him greatly, but more importantly, I realized I let down God. I had no place to turn to but to God. And entering UCLA, I always had a feeling of guilt in my first year. However, I believe it was God who directed me to KCC and ultimately to the Vision Conference hosted by KCC. It was during this conference that I really poured out my heart to God for the first time. I confessed my sins and asked for forgiveness. I also prayed for my dad. I prayed that I would be more loving towards him and to one day bring him to Christ. It was one of my most memorable experiences during my college years. And soon afterwards, I began to attend Sean. Although I did not start to come to church regularly until last year, I thank God for not giving up on me. As I enter a new stage in life, I want to grow and become a faithful servant of God by serving more in the church.